Good evening, everyone. My name is Benzion Klatzko. I have spoken over here before to the girls group, and I'm going to speak about a topic tonight that usually rabbis don't get up and speak about. And I figure we've got some cool guys over here. I met some smart people, and it was just Purim, so I still have a little bit of alcohol in my system. It lingers for a few weeks if you do it right, which I did. And therefore, I'm going to speak about life and death. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is that when people speak about death, they say, don't speak to kids about death, don't show your kids videos about death, don't show them YouTube, gross them out, give them nightmares. It's really interesting that Judaism is not scared of death. Not only aren't we scared of death, we look at death as part of life. I mean, think about this. I don't know if you have this in Queens, but I was in Muncie, New York, and we were passing these houses, and the houses had Haman, the wicked person who hung. So it had dummies of a Haman, a dummy doll of a Haman hanging from a tree. La-di-da, how fun. Let's go hang dummies of Haman. And I'm thinking, any other culture, this would traumatize the kids. And here we are, just hanging effigies of Haman. It's just the most amazing thing. So we are not scared of death. The reason that we're not scared of death is because we don't believe in death. That's the number one thing I have to tell you. We don't believe in death. Because death, the way the world speaks about death is all about an end. You're finished. You're maggot feed. You're going to shrivel up. You're going to become a skeleton. You're finished. You're through. Judaism says real life, the real deal, is only after this stage is over. What we are in now is totally and completely temporary. It doesn't even really exist. It's like a dream. It's like a dream. It's like a dream. It doesn't really exist. Hashem wants us to be in a state that we will last for all of eternity. I want to ask you something. When you have a car, how long does a car last before it really starts to break down? How many miles? About 70,000? 100,000 miles, certainly an American car, even Japanese car, right? At that point, you're already changing the rotors and the struts and the shocks, and right? Let me ask you something, honestly. If they wanted to, could they make a car that could totally last 100,000 miles with no problem? If they really wanted to, could they make a stronger car? Totally they could. They for sure could. I mean, they're making space shuttles. The space shuttle that they're about to take out of commission, that space shuttle lasted how many years? Like 26, 28 years? This is a space shuttle. And this thing went over 300 million miles. That's like to the sun and back a bunch of times. So if you can make a space shuttle, can't you make a car last more than 100,000 miles? The answer is, and this is a well-known fact within the industrial industry, things are made to be broken. When you buy something, you're buying them with a timeline. I just was in a store buying a computer, and the salesman was confiding to me. He says, I just want to tell you something. It's really not worth it spending the big bucks on a laptop, because it's built in that a laptop really crashes and breaks within 2 to 3 years. Within 2 to 3 years, the hard drive is going to go. So it's built like that. They know. They want you to buy a new one. So you got 2, 3 years and it's gone. It's finished. Could they build a stronger laptop? Of course they could. Let me ask you something. Can the Almighty, can God build you that you could last forever? Of course. Of course. Do you have to age? Do you have to get wrinkly? Does your eyesight have to go? No. If the Almighty wanted, you could be as fresh as a tomato forever. You just last and last. Right? Why is it that our shelf life is really, really short? Stop and think about it, okay? I am in my 40s, early 40s, and already already, the extra weight, the putting on, my eyesight, it's hard for me to read, I need the granny glasses, right? 40, for goodness sakes. I just turned 20 years ago. Before then I was a kid, That's it. By the time, and now I'm thinking, my goodness gracious, in 25 years, which is not that much, I'm going to be 65. No, it's not true. I'll be 68. Be 60 or 70. I'm going to be a 70-year-old man in 25 years. Not a lot, because I remember 25 years ago. I'm married almost 25 years. That means in 25 years, I'm going to be an old man. So the Almighty could have made us last forever, and He didn't. Why not? It's simple. Because He did not want this world to be your final place. He did not want you to be here forever. Because what He has to offer you is way greater than you can receive in this world. The joy, the pleasure, the closeness to the Almighty is so intense. Think about this a moment. What is the greatest pleasure that you can imagine? Think about pleasure. What do you like? You like sushi? Raise your hand if you like sushi. One guy likes sushi. No, it's not true. You have one girl, right? Oh, okay, more people, right? Okay, let's try this. Who likes delicious golden barbecued spare ribs? Just done just right on the grill. You like that? She doesn't like it. She's a vegetarian. Sephardi vegetarian. I never heard of such a thing, right? That's the first, right? Could you imagine this amazing... And what's a greater pleasure than spare ribs or sushi? Who likes roller coasters here? Like the really crazy roller coasters. You like them? The one that really your heart is in your mouth? And the ones that like just don't stop. You think they're over and that whoop, they got you. Right? Aren't those great? My kids love those roller coasters. They could go on to me, I already lost my desire for those. But they love on and on. They'll wait for an hour. I'm like, I'm not going to wait for an hour. I'll wait for maybe 5 minutes. And then I'll get nauseous after twice. I'm an old man, What's a greater pleasure? When your team wins the World Series or the NBA championship, right? That's a little bit of a pleasure there. The Super Bowl. What's a greater pleasure than that? Getting married to the one that you love? Is that better than steak and sushi? Well, if you really love that person, it darn well better be better than steak and sushi, right? What about having your first kid? Holding in your arms the product of you. Looking into this angel's eyes and saying, that's me. This is a life. I'm going to bring this life up. This is so, right? Is that pleasure? I don't know if the guys consider that pleasure. Yeah, it hasn't happened to you yet, but can you imagine it? But the girls can all imagine that, right? Holding that little tiny 8-pound, 7-pound little bundle. The Torah says, the Gemara says, if you take every single pleasure, listen carefully, every single pleasure in the entire world, every pleasure, every barbecue spare rib, every sushi, every cholent, every roller coaster, every brand new car that you got, every, hopefully one marriage, all your children, the best of times, all the pleasure that you can have in this world, and all the pleasure that every person on this world can have. So watch what we're talking about here. We're talking about every pleasure that you can have in your entire life, and every pleasure of every single person. So that means 7 billion lifetimes of pleasure. 7 billion mansions, Ferraris, not just rooting for a team, but owning a team, right? Wonderful kids, the love of your life. 7 billion people's worth of pleasure. But not just that. Not only all the pleasure that every person in this world could have, but every pleasure that every single person since the beginning of time until now, every person, every pleasure. And you were to take that pleasure, the big and the small, the delicious ice cream cones and the roller coasters and the new cars and the new houses and the great job and all the honor. You take all that pleasure and you squeeze it into one insane tablet, into one insane moment. it would not equal one moment of Olam Haba. It would not equal one moment of what the Almighty has in mind for you in the next world. It doesn't make it. It doesn't cut it. Every single pleasure from every single person, their entire lives, since the history of creation, squeezed into one moment. How mind-blowing is it? It doesn't equal one moment of Olam Haba. So what is Olam Haba? And not only that, how long does Olam Haba last for? Forever and ever and ever and we can't picture forever and ever, because if I told you 10 trillion years, that's not even a fraction of 1% of forever. Now, why can't we picture those pleasures? Because our bodies are not equipped for it. Our bodies cannot handle this kind of pleasure. I'm going to tell you something. If you try to describe the most beautiful piece of music to somebody who was born deaf, and you say, it's so beautiful, that can they understand? They never heard music in their life. Can they understand the very, very sweet strains of a violin, and then the crash of the cymbals, and then when the entire orchestra and a singer with a heavenly voice pleading at the top of their notes? Can you imagine? They can't imagine, because they never heard sound. They're not equipped to contain that pleasure. What about a person who's never seen? You try to explain to them the beauty of a sunset. Or did you ever really go to a place that's really gorgeous? An ocean, a beach during sunset? Have you ever been to Israel? Been to Masada? When the sun is rising over the Dead Sea? It takes your breath away. It's the most amazing thing you can imagine. Describe that to a blind person. Well, it's yellowish, orangish, purple. What's purple and yellow? And those are colors. What are colors? They're like kinds of light? No, it's a color. It looks yellow. Yellow looks yellow. I don't know. And green? They're not equipped. They don't know. They don't see. They don't feel it. So too, our bodies are not equipped to understand the pleasure of the next world. We don't have the instruments to understand it, to feel it. I want to tell you something interesting. Muhammad, the quote-unquote prophet of the Muslims, promises in the Quran certain rewards for somebody who listens to their God, who they call Allah. Certain rewards. Does anyone know those rewards?
72 virgins.
So people know there's a concept of 72 virgins, but that's not the only reward. The rewards are actually spelled out in great detail. You will have streams full of wine. You will have orchards full of fruit. Sounds really great. In the next world. In the next world. Sounds great, except when you stop and think about it, I'm not sure that reward is worth it. See, Muhammad had a problem. He had to try to explain to people why they should convert to Islam. And the only way of explaining it was by telling them about pleasures that they could relate to. And since many people grew up very poor in that part of the world, and wine was a rarity, and orchards and vineyards were very rare, you have to be very, very wealthy. So when he describes the reward, he describes it in a way that he could understand. Yeah, get vineyards and orchards. As Jews, we say, what? That's the reward? That's the reward? That's why the Torah avoids speaking about the Jewish reward, what it's like in the next world. Because there's no words to describe it. There's nothing we could say. Whatever we say, we have no frame of reference. We can't connect it. There's no frame, you understand? And if you stop and think about it, The great reward. Stop and think about a steak. And we say, sizzling steak, sizzling steak. Well, think about what this takes in this world to get a steak. First, you got to go to work. Say you work in a job that you may or may not like, all month, many hours, for the man who you may not like, for a company that may be pointless, all in order to get a paycheck at the end of the month. Yay, I got a paycheck. So you run, take that paycheck, and you run to the bank. Can we cash this? Yes, we cash it. And you wait a few days. Yay, now I have real money. And you run to the store. Oh, now I can buy a steak. And you run and you take that money and you take one of these frozen steaks from the the little pan underneath, the little styrofoam pan. Now you have a steak. Then you have to go home. And you take the steak, it's going to be so good, and you keep on imagining, I got my paycheck and I got the cash and I went to the bank and I went to the store, and that steak is coming. It is on its way. Now I got my steak and I bring it home. But second, got to take out the pan, and I got a few, some forks, some plates, spice it up. Okay, half an hour, 40 minutes, till I got the perfect steak. Yes, finally, that month of working and this time and this energy. Now I'm going to eat that steak. And you take that steak and you cut it. You put it on your tongue. And you chew it. And you chew it. And you chew it. Tastes just like steak. Chewy. And then a moment later, it doesn't taste anymore because the taste is gone. So you swallow it and you feel it going down. Doesn't taste anymore. And a few minutes later, your stomach is full of steak, which really is exact same as if it was full of chicken or potatoes or whatever, because once it's in your stomach, it's all the same, right? But now you got a stomach ache because you ate all that steak. Oh, steak. Right? And then you got heartburn. And then you got dishes. And then you got to clean it all up. And then you got to start the process all over again, working for the man for the month to get the money to go to the bank. We objectify, we romanticize, we say, yeah, I can't wait to get that steak. Says the Almighty, says the Jewish people, if that's your great reward, if your great reward is steak, you're a pathetic loser. That's it, sorry. I don't know any other words to say. You're a pathetic, if that's the reward, vineyard. I had one of my sons drank a little bit too much this Purim. The next day, we went to a vart. Somebody got engaged, and we went to the vart, and they were serving alcohol. You should have seen his face. He's like, oh, don't show me. I can't believe they're serving alcohol right after Purim. It's so gross, it's so disgusting. So Hashem says, you don't know what I have waiting for you. You can't imagine. You can't imagine. And not only that, this reward that I have waiting for you, what do you have to do in order to get it? Like nothing. Put on tzitzis. Whoever is not wearing tzitzis at this moment, I'm sorry, you're a loser. What can I say? I can't believe. Tzitzis takes nothing. You put it on and you forget about it. You put it on, it's there the whole day, and every single second that you have tzitzis on, you get reward that is equal to all of the pleasures of all of eternity. You don't even think, I'm wearing tzitzis, I just got a reward. Oh, just got another one. Hey, you didn't. If you're not done with tzitzis, just another one. Hey, there's another one. Hey, there's another. I could just stand there all day. Oh, well, tzitzis must cost like thousands of dollars because the reward is so heavy and it's so easy. At least it must be expensive. No, it's about $20. Less $25, maybe less. Right? And for it, you can wear tzitzis all year. All you got to do is put it on. You're getting dressed in the morning anyways, right? You're putting on an undershirt. You're putting on a shirt. So put on tzitzis. The Almighty wants it. It's such a wonderful thing. And for putting it on every second is a reward that lasts forever and ever and ever. It's like the Almighty is throwing cash at us. He's throwing cash. Take the cash. I don't know. Sort of lazy. I don't know. Step on my hundreds. Light my cigar with hundreds. Hashem says, light Shabbos candles. How hard is it to light Shabbos candles? Honestly speaking. How hard is it? You just take those candles. Lighting candles is fun. Fire. Yeah? Right? The guy's laughing, right? Light the candles. It's so easy. It's so simple. Put on tefillin. Put on tefillin. You all own tefillin. Do you know what it takes to put on tefillin? Once you get good at putting on tefillin, do you know how long it takes to put on tefillin? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. If it takes you 5 minutes, you're going. If you're really good at it, I have seen people put on tefillin, and the amount of time it takes the tzibur to say Yishtabach. That's like 45 seconds. Yishtabach, Shabbat, it's a race. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not a race. It's actually better if you take your time.
Yeah, okay, either way. But I'm saying it's short.
What are you doing until then?
Okay, either way. Hey, put it this way. If a person says to me, I don't put it on every day. I don't know if I have time. Like, you don't have time? So watch one less video on YouTube and put it on. One less video. And you get the reward that lasts for all of eternity. You made a connection with the Almighty. Words of Torah, do you know? Do you realize that every word that we're speaking now, you'll get a reward? You know what it is? Think of it like this. Imagine taking a safe, a box, a safe that is really secured. No one can take anything out that you don't want them to. And you're taking these minutes that we are together right now, and every one of those minutes you're putting in that safe, and no one can ever remove them. No matter what good or bad thing you do the rest of your life, you know that at this time, at this day, at this date, these minutes are secure for you for all of eternity. You never have to worry about these minutes. They're finished. They're through. They're good. They're good to go. All yours. No one can steal them. No one can rob them from you. They're yours. The Almighty says, I make the reward so big, and I make doing it so easy. Keeping kosher. Keeping kosher. Can I be straight with you? How many products does an average person eat in their lifetime? On it. How many products does the average person eat? Okay, every time you drink Coke, that's only considered one product. Every time you drink Tropicana orange, it's another. Every Hershey bar is only one. How many different products do you eat in your lifetime? How many do you say? Thousands. How many thousands?
Maybe 2,000, 3,000.
Billion. It's about 4 or 5,000. About 4 or 5,000. You don't understand. You get 694, 695, right? Yeah, okay. 5,000 is, I don't know if you realize how many 5,000 is. But 5,000, let's say you are a real connoisseur of food. That means you really like your food. You like to, I'm like this, I like to try different foods. Let's say you actually eat fully double what the average person eats. You eat 10,000 different products in your lifetime. 10,000. That's a lot of different products. 10,000. Do you know how many kosher products there are on the market? Over 250,000. For a person in America to not keep kosher, you got to try really hard. You got to say, I don't want to keep kosher. Because you could accidentally, practically keep kosher just by going to the supermarket. Yeah, there are certain things you have to know. Try to find a non-kosher pickle. Try to find a non-kosher vodka. It's like it's a gimme. And for those few things, yeah, you're right. You can't go to White Castle. No sliders for you. Can't go. White Castle is a no-no. And there are other things also that you can't have. But in general, in order for a person to want to live a life of eternity that's worthwhile, it's just not so hard. As a matter of fact, I've had guys turn to me and say, Rabbi, what does it take? And I say, it's very simple. Watch this. Shabbat, kosher, tefillin, and do some praying. That's it. If you keep Shabbat, and you, like totally Shabbat, not like Shabbat and then go and drive, but if you do Shabbat, kosher, do some praying, you're practically there. You're practically, yeah. On Yom Kippur you'll fast, and on Chanukah you light the menorah, yeah? Please.
On Shabbat, like, there's a lot of rules that you cannot break. So, how do you help keep every single rule there is?
Okay, so the question right now is, do you keep the rules that you do know?
That's a good question.
If you know, for example, that using electronics is forbidden, do you use them?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a very simple thing. You just turn it off. You turn it off. Now, the truth of the matter is, there's a, what's his name? Sergey Brennan from Google. Sergey, you know what I'm talking about? The head of Google? No one knows.
Is he a rabbi?
No, he owns Google. He's a Russian Jew. He went to Sinai Academy. Sinai, yes, he went to Sinai, Brooklyn. Sergey, I forgot his name. Anyways, so he, together with other people, just started a campaign that, and by the way, they're not religious, but they started a campaign that went around the world, and it's called Give Your Phone a Rest. And what they did is they created little sleeping bags for your phone. And you heard of this? Cute little sleeping bags. And they say we have to learn to turn the world off. Because the world is on, and it's making noise, and I can't hear myself think, and I can't hear. So once in a while, and the Judaism says once a week, you put your phone to rest, you shut the laptop, and you tell the Almighty, I want to have my relationship with you. This is too important. Because I know that if I start doing this, honestly, come on guys, start doing this, then you start doing that, a little smoking, you do a little internet, you do a little texting, and you and I know that eventually the whole Shabbat disappears. And you know what happens when Shabbat disappears? Can I tell you what happens? It's very simple. Shabbat disappears, Judaism disappears. That is how it works. It's that simple. Shabbat and Judaism are so connected that Shabbat is the cornerstone of all of Judaism. Shabbat is the cornerstone. If you want to be trusted in court, Jewish court, they have one question. Do you keep Shabbat? You want to have a store that serves food? They have a question. Do you keep Shabbat? Because Shabbat is all about Judaism is important in my life. But if you do Shabbat, and you do the kosher, and you put on tefillin, you're there. I want to tell you something. Many years ago, every Jew in the world was observant. Many years ago, just about, not every, but in Europe, you always had maskilim, you always had people who would leave Judaism, but in general, the average Jew kept Judaism. Now, there was a store that used to sell grain. And the grain that the stores used to sell was not very good grain. It was like cheap grain, and it got a cheap price. Let's say it went for 5 kopecks for a bag of it. A bag of grain, 5 kopecks. The nicer grain went for 10 and 15 and 20. But this cheap grain in this store went for 5 kopecks. But then there was a famine in the land, and there was no food to be had. And somebody comes to this store, and he says, come please, I want to buy a bag of grain. And you know the store owner tells him? 50 kopecks. What? 50 kopecks? It's 5 kopecks. I bought for you before. Why 50? He says, yeah, when there was lots of grain around, and you had a choice, and there was lots to be had, so then I couldn't charge more than 5. But nowadays, when there's a famine, and grain is so scarce, I could charge what I want. Because there's very little grain around. See, even for this really weak grain, I could charge 50 and people are going to pay it. And the guy knew he had to pay it. And he paid 50 kopecks for a little bag of grain. Poor grain. In the olden days, when every single Jew kept Shabbat, kept kosher, right? We were a people that rocked Judaism. When that was the case, then if you were the kind of person who, you were Jewish, but you did this, you did that, people would look at you and maybe even the Almighty would say, you could be doing better. But look at what age we are living in. Stop and think about this, my friends. Look at what times we're living in. How many Jews live and die and never even know one word of Torah, have never been to one shiur, have never put on tefillin in their lives. Today, we are in a famine. We are in a famine, and there's very little grain out there. There are very few people. This room is not full. How many of your friends are not here tonight? How many of your friends could be here, but they're not here? We're in a famine. We're in a hunger, and therefore the Almighty looks down and He says, whatever kind of a Jew you are, as long as you want to connect with me, I accept you. And it's extra valuable. It's worth 10 times what it would have been worth in the olden days. If you say, I want to do Shabbat, if you say, I want to do kosher, I want to be connected to you, you know what the Almighty says? You are a tzaddik. You are a tzaddik. And your reward in the next world will be like a tzaddik. Because we're living in a time of famine. We're living in a time of hunger. We're living in a time that there are almost 500,000 Jewish college students. How many of them are like you, coming to shiur on a weekday night? How many? Very few, right? You are the chosen of the chosen. You're the cream of the crop. So now is the time to jump. Buy when the price is low. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, tonight, tomorrow. You don't have to sit, run and buy it. It'll be worth 10 times what it would have been worth a few years ago. Be a smart investor. Be smart. And the reward that the Almighty has in store for you, do you understand it's forever? Do you understand all the pleasure in one capsule doesn't equal Olam Haba? I'm going to tell you a story. There were 2 ladies and they were collecting tzedakah. That was their job. They used to collect tzedakah for different causes. And then there was one day, one of the ladies says to the other, listen, whichever one of us dies first, let them come to their friend in a dream and say what our reward is for going around collecting tzedakah for good causes. It's a deal you could make. If you want to make it with each other, you could. But I want to tell you something. If you make that kind of a deal, the Almighty is going to make you keep it. So, I actually made such a deal with my wife. I have a deal like that. We have a little deal going on. After we die, how it's going to work out. Such a deal. So there was such a deal. The 2 women say, whoever dies first, let them come to the other one and say what the reward is going to be in the next world. Well, one day they were going collecting, and there was a house at the corner, was a mansion, and it was owned by a guy that everybody knew was a big miser. He was a kind of a person who never gave any tzedakah whatsoever. And one of the women, she points to that house and says, you know what? Let's go. Maybe he'll give tzedakah this time. Worst comes to worst, he'll throw us out, but let's go. And they walked over and he gave a little bit of tzedakah. Later on, one of the ladies died. And she came to her friend in a dream. And she said, I want to tell you something. Now, she came to her friend 6 months after she died. So the friend first said, let me ask you something. Before you tell me what it's like, why did it take you 6 months? So I'm going to tell you, it's a Kabbalistic idea. The friend said, the reason it took me so long is because when you come down in a dream, it pulls you out of Olam Haba. It pulls you out of that reward to come down to speak to someone in a dream. And the reward was so great, it was so intense, it took me 6 months to muster the energy, the courage to leave that reward even for a second. And even right now, I'm in pain that I'm not experiencing that reward, even though it's forever and ever and ever. I'm in pain. You know what I'm talking about? Then the friend said, okay, what happened after you died? She said the reward was amazing. The reward was something, it's hard for me to describe. But all I want to tell you is, remember that house one day of the miser that I pointed to and I said, hey, why don't we go to that house? The lady said, you cannot imagine the reward that I got just for lifting up my arm to point at the house. Just the act of forget about saying it, forget about walking over, forget about collecting the money. All of that got tremendous reward. But even the act of pointing to the miser's house was already an act that I got amazing reward for. So if you could imagine such an act, could you imagine living lives? Now, what happens when you die? What happens when you die? So the body has to decompose. Why does the body have to decompose? The maggots, they eat it up. Why? So it's very easy to understand why a body has to decompose. Did you ever do anything wrong in your life? Honestly. Any? No, you ever did anything? No? No, you're okay? You good? You ever did something wrong with your hands? Yeah? Would you say? Would you say you ever did anything wrong with your feet? You walked somewhere you shouldn't have, or you hurt somebody, right? Our bodies are actually evidence against us. Do you know that when somebody stabs somebody, what do the prosecutor, what do they try to find? The murder weapon. They try to find the knife. What did you do it with? Now, you can make a case even without the murder weapon. But if there's a murder weapon and it's right there sitting in front of the jury, it looks a lot worse, right? It just looks bad. Our bodies are the murder weapon. Our bodies that have done things that are incorrect in our lives are there, and they accuse us of doing different things. Says the Almighty, I'd rather you not go up to judgment until the evidence is gone. And therefore, we don't get judged until we disintegrate. Now, because of that, when a person dies in Judaism, he is put in a wooden casket. Why wood? Did you know this? You're put in a wooden casket. There's no metal. There's no plastic. You know how they have these caskets for millionaires, these $10,000 caskets, and it's metal and it's got a pillow inside and red velvet? No, Judaism, we don't allow that. Everyone gets buried in the exact same cheap wooden casket. You know why? Because we want the wooden casket to disintegrate. Exactly. The wooden casket should disintegrate. Thus, the body can disintegrate. Thus, we can go up to judgment and move on to the next world. The Gemara even speaks about a story of these two girls, and one of them was buried in something called a machzel shel kanim, like a mat of reeds, but something that doesn't disintegrate. And you know what happened to her soul? It stayed on top of the body. It couldn't go anywhere. Could you imagine the pain? Can you imagine the pain of a soul that can never be brought to judgment because it hasn't totally disintegrated? Therefore, it disintegrates. Now, what if you're a tzaddik? What if you have lived a life that is so wonderful, that is so righteous? You've done repentance, you've done teshuvah before you die. You know what happens then? Your body does not disintegrate. Yes, bodies can stay totally whole. And there have been many stories of great people throughout history, big tzaddikim and tzidkaniyot, men and women alike, who for whatever reason had to be dug up. And when the casket was opened, even many years later, their bodies were totally whole. There was a big tzaddik whose name was the Vilna Gaon. Did you ever hear of the Vilna Gaon? Big tzaddik, Rabbi Eliyahu Kramer. He was one of the great geniuses in all of Jewish history. And he was in Vilnius, it was Lithuania, Russia. And he was buried. And the time came, and it was time The Russian government decided they're going to build a highway, and it's going to have to go over Rabbi Kramer's grave, the Vilna Gaon's grave. Now, would the Jewish people allow a highway to be built on the grave of the Vilna Gaon? Of course not. So there were 10 Jewish people from America in the 1970s who made a trip to the USSR, quietly, secretly planned and carried out their plan of digging up the Vilna Gaon and reburying him somewhere else. And they all said that when they dug up the Vilna Gaon, 200 years later, his body was so fresh, it was still wet from the mikvah. When people die, Jewish people, they have water either poured on them or they go to a mikvah, still wet from the mikvah 200 years later. Throughout history, there have been people. There was a lady in Israel recently who is a very big rabbinit. And she was dug up. This is only 1 year later, but it's no less amazing because how long does the body start decaying in? How long does it take? It takes about 6 hours. After about 6 hours, if you don't put ice packs, like dry ice on the body smells and it begins to decay very, 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 very quickly. After 2 weeks, after a month, forget about it. So when they dug up this lady, totally fresh, like she was just put in the ground a year later. Why? Because their bodies do not accuse against them. And therefore, they don't have to disintegrate. Now, disintegrating is not pleasant. The Gemara says that this disintegration, and again, this is a Kabbalistic idea, but what it says is that the angels, they sort of beat the body to help it disintegrate. And that's known as Tachbudas HaKever. And it says in the Gemara that it is as difficult for a dead person to receive Tachbudas HaKever like it is for a live person to have needles stuck in them. It's very, very, very painful. But where there is no pain, how do we understand pain by a dead person? You hear the question? How is there pain by a dead person? The answer is like this. When a person is dead, especially in the beginning, they don't understand that they're dead. The neshama, the soul, is very confused. The soul, not like other religions, not like Buddhism, for example, that believes that after you die, the soul does not remember anything about this life. We remember everything about this life. After you die, you will remember that you were here tonight. Doesn't forget. There's no forgetfulness. Not only that, but your soul will also remember what you liked and what you did not like. So let's say there's a person who loved steak. You may think, I like steak. I keep mentioning steak. The answer is, I do. Sorry. So let's say there's a person who loves to eat steak. After they die, will they stop loving to eat steak? No. This same desire is there, but they can't do anything about it. Let's say there was a person who is a big shot in this world. When they die, they're still a big shot. So we are the same person, just now we can't do anything about it. So when a person dies, now when you're alive, how much time do you spend in front of the mirror? You spend some time in front of the mirror? You know, shaving or brushing your hair, putting on the makeup, right? We spend a lot of time in front of the mirror. We cherish our body. Now what happens after we die? And we're looking down at our body and we see a maggot go through our eyeball. We see a worm crawl up our nose. We see ants, crawling between our fingers and between our toes. Right? And we look at that. Do we say, he's dead, who cares? No, we don't. The same value that we had for our bodies, we still have that same value. So it bothers us. Right? We don't know what to do with it. That's what it means. It's painful. So that's why The Gemara always cautions us, don't be too attached to your body. Don't be so attached to your looks and to gashmiut, to earthly things. Because the more attached you are, the tougher it's going to be when you got to let go. It's an amazing thing. There was just this tsunami in Japan after the earthquake. And there were many people died. About 20,000 people died. What about those people who lost valuable things, but their family survived? What do you think they said to themselves? Do they say, oh, my rug, my beautiful rug? That's what they said. You know they said that. And people who had many, many things in their home and they lost it, you know what very often they say? They say, you know what? I thought I needed all that stuff. I don't need it. I'm not missing it. I don't think about it. All that stuff that was so critical, so important. I worked for weeks, I worked for months, I worked for years. And now suddenly, in a blink, in a snap, it's gone and I don't even miss it. What a lesson there is to learn from it. So I'm going to recap to you, my dear friends, okay? This world is temporary. It's fleeting. Before you know it, you spend all this time. You go for education, job, bills, mortgage, insurance, health issues, getting a little bit older, bones are creaking, arthritis, teeth go, hair goes, the whole thing, it goes like really quick. It's a whole muddle. But we spend so much time and we forget what's really important. I'm going to finish with one of my favorite stories. You may have heard it, but the story it hits home in the right places. There was a man who never had money. He tried. His wife saw he was trying. He couldn't make money. And he had a neighbor who came home one day, wealthy as can be. And he said to his neighbor, wow, what happened to you? Suddenly you bought this humongous house and you've got these fancy cars. What happened? So the neighbor said, I made it in business. I did well. And his wife kept on nagging him, saying, go over to the neighbor. Say, what business? You want to be part of that business also, don't you? What business was it? So finally he goes over to the neighbor and says, ding dong, hi, I know, I'm sorry to come over. I don't know what to do with my wife. She wants me to come over and find out what business you're in. Maybe you'll take me as a partner. Maybe I could work for you. Go, no, it's not that kind of business. But what is it? I can't go home because she's just going to send me back here. What is it that you did? How did you make this kind of fortune like overnight? So the neighbor says, okay, I'll tell you, but you can't tell anyone. He's, okay, what is it? I found out that there's an island. It's a few thousand miles away from here. But that island's a small little island. And there is a tremendous abundance of large, rare diamonds. And these diamonds are everywhere. I mean, they're like on the beach. You could go and pick up these diamonds and they're everywhere. So the guy's, really? So you went there? He goes, yeah, I went there, I just loaded up a boat and I'm rich forever and ever. He says, I want to do that. I want to go. He says, okay, I'll tell you how to get there. Here's a map. You can go. So he comes home and tells his wife, okay, this is it. It's a secret. He has these diamonds. He even showed me these diamonds. I want to go. Trust me. I'm not going to blow this. I promise you. Okay. Every last penny he had left. He even sold his furniture. He sold his cow. He sold his ox. And he took all that money and chartered a small boat. And they went very far. They brought provisions. And they went on the high seas for many days and many weeks. And eventually, they came near to this island. And even from a distance, you could see this island had a sparkle. It had a glow. They came near to the island. And as they're pulling into the shore, suddenly he heard a sickening crack. And he jumps out of the boat, looks down at the boat. And it turns out that the rudder to help steer the boat, broken. You can't get a boat that can't steer. That's very bad. Well, he'll think about it in a moment. Meanwhile, he jumps onto the beach, and there, throughout the beach, on the entire sand, yellow diamonds, purple diamonds, green diamonds, rare black diamonds, amazing. And he puts a few in his pocket. Oh my goodness, I'm going to get his rudder fixed, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to be a gazillionaire. I finally made it. So he goes into town, and he says, okay, I need someone to fix my rudder. How much will it be? He says, okay, how long will it take? He says, it's going to take, we don't have the supplies here. It's a very small island. Honestly, it could take a few months. A few months? What am I going to do here for a few months? He said, I don't know, make yourself at home. So he goes to a hotel, and he says, okay, look, I'm going to be here. I may as well live like a king. So he goes to the hotel and says, okay, give me the best suite that you got with the big fat jacuzzi. I want you to serve me breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's just do it right. The fellow says, sure, we've got the penthouse suite. Definitely for you. Great. How will you be paying for that? So he puts his hand in his pocket, takes out a purple diamond, flicks it on the counter. Here you go, keep the change. The head of the hotel looks down at the diamond and says, what is this that you're giving me? This is a rare purple diamond. Do you realize the value? So the guy behind the counter says, I'm sorry, you must not know where you are. You're on Diamond Island. There are these diamonds everywhere. I mean, why are you giving me a diamond? I can go get diamonds on my own. Really? How do people pay for things here? Over here, the rarest commodity are little milk packs. You see, there are very few cows on this island. So instead of having bags of milk or cartons of milk, it's so rare that little packs of milk, and they last for a week or two, like little ketchup packs. These are milk packs. You squeeze them out, and that's the milk. That's the currency over here. It says milk packs. Oh my goodness gracious, I have so much milk in them. Okay, milk packs it is. Well, I don't have any milk packs. Well, you got to get yourself a job, mister. So he goes into a restaurant and he says, okay, listen, I need a job. Can you give me a job? Sure. You'll be the guy that sweeps up the floor. So he takes the broom, begins to sweep. He sweeps all day, and he gets himself 5 milk packs. And he looks at these 5 little ketchup-looking milk packs. He goes to the hotel, here. Okay, give me 3 of them. I'll give you the worst room that we have. So he gives him 3. He has 2. The next day he works. He works very hard. And he begins to really amass a nice little pile of milk packs. And then one day, one of the new friends that he met teaches him how to invest. And he begins to invest his milk packs. And this time, he has mazel. And it begins to work. And milk pack gets him more milk packs. And he's investing. And soon he has thousands of these milk packs. He's wealthy. And soon he becomes the wealthiest person on the island. Eventually, they fix the rudder. And he takes his thousands and thousands of milk packs. He loads them up on the ship. And they go back towards his home thousands of miles away. They come to his home, and his wife is waiting there at the dock. Hey, where are you? I missed you. And he comes off, and he's so excited, so happy. He says, how are you? How are you? I missed you. No, are we wealthy? Are we rich? Did you make it? You bet I made it. Your husband did good. Shoo, she says, what's that smell coming from the boat? That smell is a smell of success. Those are the milk packs. These are the riches. She says, what do you mean, milk pack riches? I don't understand what you're saying. What do you mean? These are milk packs. These are, one second. Milk. Oh my goodness. That's on Diamond Island milk packs were worth something. She says, you have a whole boat, a whole ship full of spoiled milk packs? Did you not bring any diamonds from Diamond Island? And he runs on the boat and he checks all over the boat. Not a single diamond. Finally, he finds the pair of pants he was wearing on the first day. He puts his hand in his pockets and he finds near the cracks, near the bottom, he finds a few diamonds. And they're enough to buy a few things for his family. Maybe he could live a little bit comfortably. But he really blew it. He forgot. He was in Diamond Island so long, he forgot that it was diamonds that were worthwhile. And he soon began to think milk packs were worthwhile. When our souls are connected to the Almighty in heaven, when our souls are part of the next world, they know the value of Torah, they know the value of mitzvot, they know the value of chesed and tzedakah and tefillah and kashrut. They know it. It's simple. They're the diamonds. But then we get sent down to this world, and the Almighty says, go. Amass that wealth, amass that value. And we come down, and there are diamonds all along the beach. It's so easy. Kosher, Shaarey, it's so easy. Put on the tzitzis, and there you got it. You got it all. It's all at your fingertips. But you know what's hard? Well, what's hard is getting yourself a Toyota Avalon. That's hard. You know what's hard? Getting yourself a mansion with 10 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms. Getting yourself a swimming pool. That's hard. And therefore we run after these things and we think they're so valuable. They're the milk packs. And then we die. And after we die, we go up to the next world. And the Almighty says, did you bring me my diamonds? Did you become wealthy? And we say, yes, I got my Toyota Avalon. I got my mansion. I got my necklaces. I got my rings, I got my earrings, I got my designer suits. And the Almighty says, why are you showing me this? Do you think that this stuff is valuable? This stuff is worth nothing. You missed out. And we search the bottom of our pockets to find the Shabbos that we kept. Oh, there's got to be some Shabbos that I kept the whole Shabbos. At least a few. And the tefillin has to be at least one time I daven. Well, oh, I found the Shabbos that I kept the Shabbos. Right, I found. You have the chance. This is it. Time is running out. Let's move. Let's grow. So this is what I tell you. This is what I ask of you, okay? Now, that's the end of my talk. And to finish, and this doesn't have to be on Torah anytime, I usually make, you can turn off, I usually make a plug for my website. If you haven't heard about it,